Good morning, everyone. Flowing with change. There's a wonderful Chinese proverb that says, when the winds of change blow, some people build walls and others build windmills. So this entire month, we're looking at building windmills when the winds of change blow. Realizing that they are blowing a lot right now. I don't know that there's any time that they are not, though, when I stop to think about it. And we know that they're going to continue to blow as we move toward a leap in consciousness, because I think we're all on that upward spiral of evolution. We don't know exactly when that leap will occur, and I doubt that it will be like in Star Wars or Star Trek, the light speed ahead or warp speed. Remember that whoosh and all the individual stars become like straight lines. We didn't get to go on that ride yesterday, but it's still, that's such a sensation of speeding through space. It's not going to be like that, but I think it is coming, and I think it's going to accelerate as we continue on. It's going to come pretty quickly. So there was a new preacher that had just begun his sermon, and he was a little bit nervous, and about 10 minutes into his sermon, his mind went blank. Oh my, I have had that happen before. After a brief second of complete panic, he remembered what he'd been taught in seminary. He was told to repeat the last thing that he had said, and that would help him remember what he was supposed to talk about, what was supposed to come next. And he had just quoted Jesus' statement, "Behold, I come quickly." So he said that again, "Behold, I come quickly." But still, his mind was blank. He tried again with a bit more fervor, "Behold, I come quickly." But still, nothing. He tried one more time. "Behold, I come quickly," speaking and gesturing with such force that he fell forward, knocking the pulpit to one side, tipping over the flower pot, and falling into the lap of a little old lady in the front row. The young preacher apologized profusely. "That's all right, young man," said the little old lady. "It was my fault. I should have gotten out of the way. You told me 3 times that you were coming."
Quickly.
Quickly, yes. Change doesn't always announce itself that way, but it is coming. So Neil Donald Walsh in When Everything Changes, Change Everything, suggests that the shift is happening over 30 years. It's a 30-year period where the shift is taking place. So think back a little bit. Remember how everyone thought it was going to happen on December 21st when the Mayan calendar ended, which was 2012, right? And it wasn't really a dramatic ending of life on the planet as some people thought there was going to be, nor was there really that dramatic of a shift in consciousness, although I think we all became a little bit more aware. But Don Jose Ruiz, who's the son of Don Miguel Ruiz, who we all know from the Four Agreements, he said that in his opinion, the end of the Mayan calendar was the end of superstition, the end of giving our power away, and the beginning of taking responsibility for our own experiences, the beginning of finding our internal source and resources. I thought was kind of an interesting thing. So, when these things come up, they may be endings, but they are also the beginnings of something that's moving us forward. And what we know is that in this process of up-leveling, isn't that a cool word? I didn't make it up, but it is cool. I don't think you'll find it in the dictionary. Or taking a revolution around the upward spiral of our evolution in consciousness, there will be change. And today, we're going to look at a couple of ways that we can more fully flow with change when everything changes. So as a brief reminder, last Sunday we looked at the concept of changing our emotions about change by changing our thinking. Gee, where do we hear that, right? Change your thinking, change your life. Realizing that we cannot change our emotions, but that we can change our thoughts. And when we change our thoughts, changes in our emotions automatically follow, right? Okay, right. This morning we're going to add the tools of choosing to change our choice of inner truths and choosing to change our idea about change to our spiritual toolkit so that we can more gracefully and easily flow with change. So we're going to begin first with choosing to change our choice of inner truths. To begin exploring the idea of changing our choice of inner truths, let's back up a little bit to last week. As we already said, our thoughts create our emotions, but because this happens in a nanosecond, because that's always been the question, what comes first, the thought or the emotion? What comes first? In less than a heartbeat, it feels as if the emotions are coming first. I mean, I've been washed over with emotions and wondered how I got there, but I didn't realize that a thought triggered it first. But since it happens so darn fast, so lightning fast, it might be really important to understand what generates the thought that creates that emotion. Maybe? Look at that. So where does the thought come from in the first place? Because I think a lot of thoughts we think habitually. They just, are on autopilot, auto run, those tapes. So stay with me as we unravel something, okay? All right, Walsh suggests that the thought comes from what he calls our inner truth, not what we might term our spiritual truth with capital S and T. This is just our inner truth. Rather, what we believe to be true about what we believe to be true about ourselves and our world. And where does that belief and the inner truth come from? It comes from our prior data. It comes from our inner truth emerges out of our data. And where does that data come from? Well, it's really generously supplied to us from many sources from the moment of our birth. It's going to come from our parents. It's going to come from our family, our friends, our neighbors, our teachers, our role models, our culture, our education, our religion, our entertainment. All of these things are going to contribute to what we call our inner truth. So we're supplied with data from a variety of sources coming at us since the moment of our birth and maybe perhaps even before. Yeah. We might pick up things while we're still in the womb. Some believe that we might be bringing things from prior lives into this experience as well. And all of this data rolls around in us creating our inner truth. Then when a new event occurs, when a change occurs, we react, we respond, and we don't respond, we react from this place. Walsh writes, we don't experience what's going on outside, we experience what's going on inside about what's going on outside. So for an example, if your dad told you all your life that you were never going to make anything of yourself, that you were a mess up and you always would be, that data would have created a belief and an inner truth in you. Then when an event or a change in your life, that maybe you got laid off from a job or your partner left you or you got in financial trouble or you lost your home, your reaction to this experience is going to be triggered by your inner truth. Your thoughts are going to be, yes, Dad was right. Look, it just proved it, right? I'm just a complete screw up and here's more proof of it. There are going to be, those are going to be your thoughts, and then the emotions of guilt, shame, depression, etc. follow because you're supporting those thoughts. So does that make any sense? Okay, so you see how that progression occurs. Now here's the metaphysical teaching. What causes the event or the change in the first place? What causes it? Our inner truth. When that adds more confirming, what then adds more confirming data to our inner truth? The event or the change. And what causes the next event? Our inner truth. And what adds still more confirming data to our inner truth? The event or the change. And I think you get the picture. The whole thing is one big circle. We have this event and we, confirm that, oh yeah, see, it's true. And then that attracts another event that's just like it. We're just going in a circle here. Nothing's getting changed here. And it may seem that there's no place to get off, but there is. And when everything changes, Walsh gets very detailed, but a little bit complicated about how to do that. In fact, he calls it going deeper into the rabbit hole. So we're not going to get that complex this morning. The bottom line of what he suggests is consistent with all of the teachers of higher truth. And, I'd like to include myself in that because this is something that really speaks to me. It is realizing that there is a reality going on that is higher than your inner truth. There's a reality that's going on that's higher than your inner truth and higher than the events that you are experiencing. Walsh calls it the third reality, and he writes, paying attention to the third reality can so affect your life that you may never have to endure emotional turmoil again, ever. This is where Buddha lived. This is where Christ resided. This is where all the true masters live. It was the home of Paramahansa Yogananda. It is the home of the Dalai Lama. It is where you will find Thich Nhat Hanh and Western masters too, such as Stephen Levine, Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, and Mary O'Malley. They all lived from the third reality, which is the realization that what we think is going on and what we think about what we think is going on is not what is really going on. Does that sound like A Course in Miracles for anyone who's familiar with that? Yes, it's an illusion, right? So let me say that again. It is the realization that what we think is going on and what we think about what we think is going on is not what is really going on. That just blew my mind. Judge not according to appearance, but judge by righteous judgment. Someone very wise once said that. Which now leads us to today's first tool. Change your choice of inner truths. In our scenario before, we have a person who was told that he was no good, he was a screw-up, which then became his inner truth. He believed it. He bought into that. Now he has an event, say he was laid off from work. And his inner truth tells him that, yep, I see. Here's confirmation, here's proof, I am a screw-up. I can't even hold a job. This tool says that while you may have thought that initially, you can choose to change that thought by saying to yourself something like, wait a minute. These thoughts I'm having are coming from an inner truth that I have accepted from old, worn-out data. I don't have to accept that as my inner truth any longer. I can, right in this moment, change my inner truth. And right there, in that moment, you can start to install not only new thoughts about your inner truth, your spiritual inner truth, but you can install this truth, and it's a big one. So are you ready for it? Yeah? Walsh calls it the answer to everything. Did you know you were going to get the answer to everything today? All right. This is a bonus, right? Here it is. Here it is. All change is for the better. All change is for the better. There is no such thing as change for the worse. And in that awareness, we employ the second tool of this morning. Choose to change your idea about change. Because boy, do we resist change. I know I do. I resist change that's one of the things I have been working on, definitely. Walsh writes, we have been viewing change as a disruption, a break in the flow, a shift in direction, an alteration in our lives. But change is not a disruption, but an eruption. It is life erupting into fuller bloom. Change is not a break in the flow. It is the flow. Change is not a shift in direction. It is the direction in which all life moves. Change is not an alteration in the condition and circumstances of our lives. It is the condition and circumstances. In our expanded awareness from choosing a new inner truth, a spiritual inner truth, and from choosing to see a third reality, we can observe that without change, life itself would not be. For life is movement, and movement is change. This change, this layoff, didn't happen because I'm a mess up. It happened so that I can have a freer, fully, more expanded expression of life. This change, this divorce, didn't happen because I don't deserve to be loved. It happened so that a more genuine, fulfilling, and joyous love can enter my life. This change, this illness, didn't occur because I have never been worthy of anything, not even a healthy body, but rather as a wake-up call to shift my internal and perhaps external ways of being so that a vibrant, healthy physical body can be brought forth. The truth is life is a self-sustaining system, and it sustains itself by adapting, by changing. The happiest people in the nursing homes, in the rest homes, in the assisted living care homes are the ones who have adapted to change. They've kind of gone with the flow. And they're the happiest. It's amazing to see this. Thus, every change that ever occurs is a change for the better. So, say with me, all change is for the better.
All change is for the better.
Think about a change in your life right now and say, this change is for the better. This change is for the better. Alan Cohen, in A Daily Dose of Sanity, wrote, nothing happens... Huh?
Sorry.
That's okay. Laughter's always good. Alan Cohen said, he wrote, nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything leads to something else. What appears to be a setback or a loss may simply be one event in a string of events that leads to something entirely more rewarding than the single upsetting event. Do not resent events that move you out of your comfort zone, especially when your comfort zone is not all that comfortable. Oh my goodness. I can't believe how sometimes I have fought to stay someplace I'm really not all that comfortable. Why? Because I'm thinking it's going to be worse, but it rarely is. It's usually much, much better. The universe is always responding to your subconscious desires and intentions. Ask yourself this: how might an unexpected or upsetting change be moving you toward your greater good? Now, I know that sometimes the way you'd like to change things is to change the fact that anything changed at all. Let's just keep it all. This is good. I'm happy with this. Let's just keep status quo. It may look as if you can be happy again only if you can change what happened. Make it back to the way it was, or maybe a little bit different. But here's the deal. It's really not going to make you happy. That is not going to make you happy. If keeping things the way they were would have made you happy, the change that just occurred would not have occurred. That's huge. Change is an announcement that something is not working. Change is an announcement that something is not working. Walsh writes, change for the worse is literally impossible within the expression of the energy that we call life. That's because life itself can fundamentally alter itself in only one direction. The direction that evolution requires, the direction that expansion demands, the direction that keeps it flourishing. Things can only change for the better. Things can only improve because improvement is the only nature of God. Improvement is the only nature of God. Life evolves to higher and higher levels of expression. Life could not devolve if it wanted to. It is incapable of that. Now, it's true that our life can look like it is devolving. Change can look like there are things that are not for the better. But the fact, change can only be for the better or it would not occur. Change can only be for the better. All spiritual masters know this, and now we know this, so we're spiritual masters, right? Okay, you might say, if all things change for the better or happen for the better, and this is really true, then what in the blazes does God have in mind with this change I'm going through right now? Because things sure don't look any better. They look a lot worse. And that question leads us to the next tool for our spiritual toolkit. But we're going to save that for next week. Ha! A little teaser! There's a little teaser. For now, let's just simply breathe. The Bachelor, yes. Right now, let's just simply breathe into the awareness that at any moment, we have the right and ability to shift our inner truth and to move it to the spiritual truth, capital S, capital T, that change is happening because it is moving us forward. That change, to paraphrase Walsh, is not a disruption, but an eruption. It is life erupting into a fuller bloom, fuller expression. This change going on in your life right now is not a break in the flow. Rather, it is the flow. So let's go with that flow. Let's go with the flow. Let us flow with the change, realizing that it is all for the good because it is all God. And so it is.